How's that? Can you guys hear me now? Yeah, I think we got it. All right, we had to do a little bit of hocus pocus here tonight to get this going, but we are live. Thank you so much for hanging in there, guys. Um, it is a Sunday night hump here for sure. I don't know, my stand broke on me. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. Um, Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, welcome to Upstairs to the Right Music channel. We are going to talk about a few things here tonight, but before we get started, I always like to start off by thanking you for taking your time to watch. Time is a valuable thing, and spending a little bit of yours with me is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, guys. Good to be here. A little bit of a different angle. Let me change my lighting here. Yeah, this is all right. So, okay. I generally start off talking about things that are going on here, or things that have been happening here. I have been on my guitar safari that I do every month, where I find vintage guitars over in Japan and ship them over to here, but I gotta find them first. And an alarming trend that I'm starting to see, even in the used guitar market over in Japan, which, to be frank with you, generally you don't have to deal with fakes too much. But I am starting to see a trend where I have to be careful, particularly with Fenders for some reason. A lot of fake Fenders, particularly Fender basses and Strats, are showing up. And so I find that extremely interesting. And it got me thinking this week about fake guitars in general, this trend of them really flooding the market. And I thought to myself, well, there's one good thing that will come out of these tariff issues that are going on between the United States and China is you can say bye to Chipsons. Prices of Chipsons generally, they were selling chips, as I pointed out, they were selling Chipsons on Temu there for a minute. I think Dylan Talks Tone bought one from, hey, good evening, Mr. Watson. How you doing? I believe Dylan Talks Tone bought one from Temu, and then he wrote to Temu and said, why are you guys selling these? you know, you know, anyway, but it just is something that has been widespread and it seemed like it was accelerating. But with these tariffs, that $350 to $500 that generally that people would spend on these Chipsons is out the door. You know, now Chipsons are for those of you who may not know what that means. That is a fake Gibson guitar. Um, and they are of dubious quality. Some of them can be made pretty good, a little few mods here and there, and it's a playable guitar. Most of them are plywood crap. And with the 150, between 145 and 154% tariff, depending upon who you watch, you're looking at a $400 Gibson now is going to cost over €1,000 landed with your import fees, your VATs, your taxes, and all that. Now, for over $1,000, you can get a real Gibson. You can get a studio for under $1,000 all day long. Everybody knows that. So that is for one thing that is going to, discourage the Chipson aficionados out there. The second thing that's going to really discourage or should discourage them if they had any brains is the fact that every package that comes into the States from China from now on, even after this thing is resolved, they're going to be looking at it with, the skill of a proctologist. Okay? And if you bring in the Chipson and they find out that and they track it to your address, because they got you and you receive it, I remind you, there are fines and penalties and jail times that are associated with that. They will, they will really, really, and they will do it because this is that administration that they have right now. They will send the guys to your house. So I'm just warning you. I'm telling you that if you're of the mindset to continue to even at $1,000, if you're stupid enough to buy it at 1,000 or from a Facebook marketplace or anything like that, they're looking now and they're really checking. And so the sites are being policed harder. It's not just illegal now; it's uneconomical now. Is the point of this? So I open with this really just to say hooray, because that flood of cheap Chinese knockoffs, of fake Gibsons and Fenders and things that were actually starting to get into my market over in Japan has come to an end. They may try to redirect it towards Japan, but Japan, it's a small country and they check every package because they're looking for drugs, honestly speaking. And so they're going to check everything. Believe me, I lived there for 18 years. I know. It's and even worse is Singapore, so forget about it. So they have no market in no place really. South America, maybe, there's an economical fit there. Facebook Marketplace is a sketchy place right now. Yeah, Mr. Watson. Everybody, talks about, oh, Mike, well, you could reach out to somebody said to me a few months ago, just a few months ago, said to me, hey, Mike, you should open up a Facebook marketplace account and start, sending stuff over to the United States. You know how screwed I would be right now if I had taken that advice with the tariffs between the EU and the United States. First of all, that's the first thing. The second thing is that's just a sketchy thing, man. I didn't want to have anything to do with it because they sell Chipsons, Any place that is, cool on selling Chipsons like that is not a place for me because you know how I feel about them. But the conclusion, the Chipson era is done. I'm going to call it. I think that the Chipson era is done. And that's a good thing because, again, people will say, well, what is it to you? It's that person's money. They had the freedom to spend it on whatever they wanted to. Okay. So Bob invents a super widget. And musicians everywhere just love the super widget. Even some years of the super widget are more favorable than others, more expensive than others. And then John opens up a factory in a faraway country and copies to the T, but poorly, the super widget and starts selling it for a fraction of the price. And if you don't see a problem with that, several that I could point out to you, the legal issues, the moral issues, the economic issues, then I don't know what to say to you. I really don't. So the Chipson era, I'm going to call it is done, So instead of gambling on, plywood, people need to start waking up to the hidden gems out there. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. Vintage Japanese guitars from the 80s and 90s. Mr. Rogers in the house. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the live stream. We got a different angle going here. My usual stand broke on me. I don't know. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good snap. I have a high angle light stand that I bought locally here, actually. So it's probably Chinese made. And it broke on me. But I've got this mini stand. And, I always have a plan B. Speaking of, as you guys know, for a while now, I have been Hey, how you doing, Seamus? How you doing, sir? So good to see you, Mr. O'Brien, in the house. Guys, I'm so glad you guys are here. Always glad to see everybody here. Let's get started with this tonight. Let's talk about a few things. So, as you know, for a while now, I have been a couple of things. I've been wanting to get a Telecaster that I liked. And as you guys have seen here on the channel over the years, I've had Fender Telecasters. I've had Harley Benton Telecasters. Had Epiphone, maybe? No, not Epiphone. I don't think so. But I've had a few Telecasters, mostly Fenders, come through. Oh, and a Squire. And none of them really did it for me in the way that two Telecasters that I had before. The what I call Monica Butterscotch that I use for some live shows that I did and also for most of my recording. And another one that I had that I don't talk about very much that I've been looking for over a decade. Over a decade. I'd say since 2013 or 14, I've been looking for this guitar. And the why I've been looking for it is let me catch up here. Dewey, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the live stream. Boy, everybody's here tonight. Feeling special. I'm so glad to see you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Yeah, the story, just a long story short, and I'll put the link here into the chat. So that link that I just put in the chat right there is just a snippet from a live show that I did with a Telecaster that I had on loan to me, and I used the a 335 for my first show. I hated that. Went out and I found Monica Butterscotch, my Fender basswood body, low end, but Fender Japan Telecaster. And I used that for two shows, and I had some problems with the neck pickup shorting out. So I took it to Millennial Music down in Machida. Yeah, in Machida. And took it to the shop there, Monica, my Fender. And I said, could you fix this? And I had it in the shop. It takes a long time there. Honestly speaking, Luther's there. They take their time, but they do good work. But I had a show coming up. And I said to the Sacho, the guy who ran the place, I said, do you have any loaner guitars or any guitars that I could rent? And he said, okay, I like you enough. I was there with Kago, my guitar player, so he knows Kago for years. So you're here with Kago, you're good. I'll loan you this guitar so you can do your gig. And he loaned me a Telecaster. It wasn't a Fender or any name. It was an Aria Pro 2. It was made by Aria Pro 2. And I thought that was cool. I said, hey, I remember Aria Pro 2 guitars from when I was growing up because Aria Pro 2, they made mid-range guitars and cheap guitars, but they also sometimes made some high-end guitars. And this was one of them. But I didn't ask her anything about it. I didn't say anything. I took it and I used it for the gig. As you can see in that clip that I put there, that is the the guitar that I'm talking about. That was on loan to me. And the only problem, it had a little bit of a tuning stability problem, but that's why the tuner is on the headstock in that clip. I usually don't play with a tuner on the headstock, but that was just to check my tuning. But I love that guitar. As you can hear from that clip, it just had a ringing tone, just a beautiful guitar, and it was really nice. It was a red custom with white binding, and it was made by Aria Pro 2. And it is the name of that line was the Legend line. So it was Legend by Aria Pro 2. And after the gig, I took it back to the shop in one piece. And I thanked the Sacho and I said, I love this guitar. I really love the way that it plays. Would you be interested in selling it to me? And he said, no. Yeah. And I said, Nande. And he explained to me that that was his personal guitar. That was one of his. And that the quality of that guitar and the way that it was made in Japan. They stopped making them there. He said, I remember that much, and he said that they are made just as well as their American counterpart guitars, but they're cheap. You know, there's a cheap guitar, but they didn't make a lot of them. And I kind of let it go. And then years later, after I sold Monica Butterscotch, as you know, during COVID, because I was getting great. I mean, you know, I made money for it, but do I regret selling it? Yes, in a way. But I've been looking for a replacement Telecaster, and I tried a few. And the guitar that I've really been looking for is that guitar that's in that video clip that I just put up there, because you know, you can hear it live. That guitar was a ringer. You know, it was just a beautiful sounding guitar, and it had that gravitas to it that I talk about. That good, nice, well-made Japanese guitars have. I could tell it was actually a better guitar than my Fender Telecaster. Actually, I've never been able to find one. Never been able to locate one. And as you guys know, I spend a lot of time looking for Japanese guitars, looking on Japanese websites for a long time, for a few years now here professionally. And I never came across one. You know, I said to myself, well, you know, that's interesting because generally that is something that, you know, there are rare guitars out there that they'll show up. Even the super high end Grecos, you know, the 1200s and the 1800s, or some of the high end Fender Japan, the JV 115s, for example. Those will pop up on the sites every now and then. But this guitar, this Ario Pro 2, it's just like I have a client who's a YouTuber who's also looking for a certain Ario Pro 2 guitar that he had when he was gigging. He sent me a picture of it. You wouldn't believe it because he has not much hair now, but back then he had a lot more that I've been looking for him for a while. And we saw one over. He pointed it to me over in the United States for sale. No, I'm sorry, in Japan for sale, but it was a private seller, and I couldn't find it on. It was on eBay, and it's just weird, and we just couldn't snatch it up. And I have not seen another one of those since. So there are some Ario Pros out there that are the high end ones that are hard to find. Mike, or Scott asked, are there Japanese made guitar amplifiers? Um, yes, but not really. No, not really. I mean, you know, there are some Fender Japan amps that were made that they continue to make, but it's not really a big market there because of the cost. Dewey said, I had a bad experience with Facebook Marketplace yesterday. Oh, do tell. I went to do a trade with my Lazarus Les Paul. Oh, wow. Guy last minute says he has to go and couldn't wait any longer after I drove over an hour. Yeah, you know, that he was never there. As you know, he was never there in the first place. He just cheesed out. It's just, I just don't know, man. It just didn't seem like something I want to do. And like I said, if I've been involved in doing business with the United States right now, I'd be in big trouble because of the tariffs. I saw this guy who had a small business like mine, YouTuber, completely different space, but had a small business like mine, just like mine. And just like me, just recently got some capital to invest in the business to scale up. And so he bought a container full of wood siding, that he was having success selling on Facebook Marketplace. Um, at the cost of about $27,000 worth, a container from direct. He was buying it from Seattle before the distributor, but he decided to go direct and buy it in China. And he had 27,000 worth. By the time it got halfway here, the tariffs started hitting. And every day, literally every few hours, it got higher and higher. As it stands right now, again, like I pointed out at the Chibson discussion I was having at the opening here, with the tariffs standing around 145%, this guy is looking at about a $92,000 tariff bill when those goods land that he has to pay, because he can't send it back to the sender, because there's a tariff on that end for goods as well. Even on the return ones, he will get a restocking fee. He won't see that 27, or he may not see that. They may cut bait and run with his money. He can't afford to receive the goods on this end. So the point of this is that you know I just really glad that I didn't do business with the States, because I wouldn't want to see myself in that kind of situation where I shipped some goods over and it got stuck there, and then sending it back here cost me extra fees and wouldn't make it back in one piece. It's just one of those things that aren't good. So that's why I think really people should take a look at sleeper Japanese guitars. Because the tariff thing between Japan and the United States, that is not so is not, as a matter of fact, it's on pause right now. So there's no issues there, whether you're in the United States, Canada, or wherever you are in the world. I think that there's some Japanese sleeper guitars that are great. Now, some of them are hard to find. I have one here that I'd like to show you a picture of. So take a look at that. That is the sunburst version of that guitar in that clip that I just sent you, that I just posted there. I found it. I've been hinting and hawing around about this is at my secondhand buyer's house. He took a picture of it because it came in this weekend. It got in. I've been talking about it. I don't like to talk about these things too much until I get them, because I don't want to jinx myself. But this is a guitar that this is the sunburst version of that guitar that's in that live clip that I just posted. And I couldn't find the red one with binding, but that's okay. This sunburst actually looks good. And you're looking at an outer body, three-piece outer body, maple neck with a slab rosewood fretboard on it, made by Aria Pro. It's the Legend vintage and something, I forget it's labeled, collection. And these are very, very rare. They don't make a lot of these. And I attributed, I can honestly say I haven't, that's the first one that I found. Do I have a picture of the back? Let me see if I can show you the back of that. No, just have the front. But, honestly speaking, I've been looking for, and it's a bit of gas on my part. I immediately said to my guy, buy it. But there's two things. First thing is that the Squire that I had, the Custom Vibe Telecaster, it went just this last Friday in a trade deal that I did with another guitar, with the Flying V. And good timing on that. It's funny that with the I'm good slogan, as you know, I have a philosophy: if I bring something in, I sell something that goes. Well, I got what I paid for that Custom Vibe, honestly. I didn't lose any money. Those things are extremely popular, and one in good condition like that still holds a good trade value to it. So I didn't lose any money on it. That's a good thing. I picked a winner with that one. It just didn't work for me. And it didn't work for me because maybe this was a little bit of a snob in me. But again, I just say that if you go for older guitars, especially the older Japanese ones, You can get a true rosewood fretboard. You can get an outer body. Yeah, it's a three-piece outer body, but it's an outer body. Ash, of course, being the top wood generally for Telecasters, but most people like outer, and it's a reasonable substitute. And Japanese made pickups, made in 1996. They made these at the Chugaki Kaisha. I may be butchering that. Let me check my notes here. Um, yeah, and they made these. Aria Pro 2 made these at that shop. That's where they made all their high end models. And that was the last year, 1996 and 1997. They completely moved their production over to Korea. And there are Korean versions, so it's the Legend Telecaster. The Korean versions, you can tell the difference between the 97 on Korean versions and the Japanese versions. A few things. There's no, even such a small thing as the difference with the Japanese ones having one string tree, true to, and having the true Telecaster. So it's actually one of the last true lawsuit guitars that was being produced into the 90s in Japan because it has the Fender Telecaster headstock. After that, they changed the headstock design. But really, it matches a Fender Custom Telecaster shape exactly. And the best thing that I like about that guitar is it cost me 117 euros. It's a 1996 in perfect condition with a case, and I paid 117 euros over in Japan for it. With the VAT and shipping fees all figured in, because I do bulk shipping, it's going to land me about 180 euros in total. So I'm super stoked. I got a cheaper guitar, a better guitar for cheaper. And this is one of the things that made me want to talk about this subject tonight because Aria Legend guitars like this were built in Japan. Um, this one was built at the Chushingaki. Uh, Once the Matsumoku factory shut down in 19, what is that, 87, I believe it was, then you began to get the shift over to Korea. But again, some of the high end stuff was made at the Chushingaki factory, still in Japan. So there's that. Boy, everybody's dropping off on me. Come back, everybody, if you can. Anyway, for those of you guys that are still here, hanging in with this one. I know it's a little boring tonight, but I'm going to get to the main point of this. Now, not all of them were lawsuit copies, but a lot of them were. The attention to detail, the wood selection, and fretwork, they actually, as that guy was explaining to me all those years ago and I wasn't paying attention, they really rivaled the Fender Japan models. They really did. And most people overlook them because the brand names aren't as flashy. But everybody knows Aria. Aria Pro 2 guitars are known by everybody out there. So even in the case of this guitar, I can say that it's not really, an unknown brand. It is an Aria Legend, is an Aria brand, but it's not as flashy. And I think that's a shame because you're getting a build quality on this guitar that rivals, again, the Fender Japan models of that time. Now, you compare it, I wish that the classic vibe had held on just a few more weeks. I wanted to do a head-to-head comparison between the two. But if you really compare just on paper the Squier Classic Vibe Tele Custom to this one, the Squier Classic Vibe has a basswood ornato body. Sometimes the hardware can be kind of not the best quality, and they're still over $400 new. Whereas with the case of this 1996 Legend LTE CST, it has a three-piece outer body, much better neck, and it has vintage specs to it. Now, the custom vibe might have more name recognition, but the legend feels like the real deal. And again, even at $400, the Aria comes in at a fraction of the price. Fraction of the price. So there's that. You know, again, I started off talking about Chibsons, and the reason that I did that is because I want to point out, why would you even screw around with, buying a Chibson, taking a gamble on the quality of it, sight unseen. And the second thing, of course, would be the legal issues that would arise if you were to get involved in that kind of trade. It's just a bad idea all the way around. Where just across the pond in Japan, there are lawsuit guitars that were being made up until the 90s, the mid 90s, that are of excellent quality at a fraction of the price. See, it just again proves to me that the reason, a little bit of a deviation here, but getting back on the Chibson thing, it again reinforces in my mind that for the most part, the reason that guys get Chibsons is because they want to have that Gibson or Fender logo on the headstock. Because they want to fool themselves into thinking. It's like the guy who buys a fake Rolex. He's fooling everybody but himself, in my opinion, because every time you look across the room and look at that guitar, you down in the deep down pits of your lawless heart know, illegal guitar buying heart know that it's a fake. And there's just no getting around that. Whereas if you look across the room and you see a vintage guitar like this one from Japan, you say, hey, I've got something pretty rare there and pretty freaking nice. And I didn't bust the bank getting it either, including shipping it over. So, again, the psychology of that is weird to me. There are other sleeper guitars. Okay, you don't want that Aria Pro 2. Then look at the Greco SE, Spacey Sound. The SE 500s are your best bang for the buck. From 1977 until they stopped making them, I believe 1980, 81, I think is the latest on those. But for that period of time, they made a lot of them. And for what you can get them for, you're getting vintage specs and some of the best, you don't need to do anything to those guitars. Maybe with some of the 70s ones, they may need a little bit of work with your pots and caps, but the pickups are just phenomenal. You're not going to get a pair of custom wound pickups that are going to sound as good or phenomenal as some of the vintage Japanese SE50s, the Grecos. I almost bought another one this month, but I actually found an even more rare Strat that's coming in. I can't wait to show it to you guys. I got a Fender Strat this time, a Fender Japan. I found a ST 6265, made in 1984. So this is the second year of production where the Toka guys were now making Fender Japan guitars, and 83 was the first year. And it's a pretty sweet guitar. I can't wait for it to come over. But again, you can get something like that for a fraction of the price. Why would you buy that over buying a fake Fender, Chinese made model? I don't understand the logic of that. I don't understand that. Seamus, Mike, be sure to check out the Aria Pro 2 Buckaroo Telecasters made. Yes, I am aware of the Buckaroos as well. Those were, again, made along with the Legends, those were made in the Chushin Gaki. Or maybe the Buckaroos were made in Matsumoto. I can't remember there. But yeah. No, it was this one. It was this Legends that I played live, and ever since that night, I've been looking for that guitar. I've been looking for this guitar, and I'm so glad that it took over a decade, but I finally found it. And I defy you to find another one of these. I will be looking again, because if I can find them, I'm going to snap them up, because for myself, because at under 200 euros shipped, you're not going to beat that. That's a better made guitar than the Fender Japan models that were being made at the time. They were better guitars, all the way around. The Telecasters, customs. So but you won't find them. You'll find the Korean ones. You'll know the Korean ones because they'll have the two string trees on a not one. So there'll be again some vintage specs that aren't there that the Japanese ones up to 96 have. But yeah, the Tokai TSS or SS models from the 1980s. We've had a few here. I've bought a few, particularly the Silver Star models. I think that the Silver Stars, especially what is that? I had an 83. That last one that I had, that Tokai Silver Star, that was Silver Star, yeah, that I had in a month or so ago. Check out the video if you haven't seen it. That was a gorgeous, gorgeous guitar that could be had for the price of a custom vibe. Okay. And again, I don't understand. The Ario Pro 2 RS series, I'd like to point out to you guys as well. If you're not aware of those, look into those. The R2 RS series. I see those all the time. It's not something that my buyers would take, but if I was looking for, for those models, I would go with that. That's another one because again, great build on those. Those were Matsumoto. I know that those were Matsumoto made, and you're just not going to beat that. The Fujigen made Diamants and Epiphones. Again, Fujigen were producing like this Fender that I have coming, this 84 Fender Strat I have coming in. They were also producing Epiphones and Diamants at the time. If you can find, and again, the Diamants, those are the ones. They show up every now and then, but those are 2,000 or 3,000 euro guitars. They're no joke. But if you look at the originals, which are 10, 12, 13, 14, 15,000, on the Diamants, it's a bargain. But the Epiphones, of course, we all know about the Fujigen made Epiphones. Some of those rival. Thanks, Scott. Silver Star. Let me take a look at that link. Get over there. Yeah, I can get over there. Let's take a look at that. Interesting. I lost my feed. Wait a minute. There it goes. All right, let me look at that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, it was a Silver Star. Boy, man, what was that? 1983 Silver Star. Yeah, right there in the clip in the beginning. That guitar, I have to be frank with you, is just a killer Strat. It's one of the best ones that I ever played briefly. Or hell, it had that gravitas. And again, that guitar, I bought that for the price of the CD, 400 euros. And you're not going to beat that. You're not going to beat that. The Taisco or the Kwai stuff, they look weird. Brad, the guitarist, he has a few of the Taisco guitars, but they're cool, they're weird, and they're becoming collectible. Some of the common traits of sleepers is there's no big brand name on the headstock. So if you're really a headstock snob, then this conversation really isn't for you. But if it is, generally you're safe between no later than 96, but 1995 and before that, generally these are made in Japan. They hadn't really shifted. Well, Ario was producing guitars over in Korea in the 70s, to be honest. So their shift over to Korea and the final shift over to Korea in the late 90s wasn't a big move. They had already begun to do it. but they were still producing guitars in Japan. Um, Certain traits like the slab rosewood boards and also the real alder or ash bodies will also be a dead giveaway that these are made in Japan, not Korea. When these guitars moved over to Korea, they of course began to get basswood bodies. So now some people will take these and they find them to be great modding platforms. I would be loath to take, for example, this guitar. This one is mine, so that's going to be mine. That's going to be my Telecaster. I hope it's a good player. If it's anything like its sister guitar that I played on stage that, 2 nights, all those decades, years ago, over a decade ago, then I know it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good beefy neck and it's going to be great. But I wouldn't mod it. Other in terms of changing pickups, fine. Just keep the original pickups, but I won't be changing tuning pegs, or I won't be doing unless it really needs it. I'm going to keep it stock. And even if I change, and I do have a set of I've got quite a few pickups here for Telecasters here that are waiting in the wings, but that would I'd still keep the original pickups. But they do make great modding platforms if you keep it simple. And you could sell these guitars between you can pick them up, for 100 to 200, and over on this side of the pond, you could sell them between 200 to 300. So you're not going to lose money on them either. You're not going to make a great deal. You're not unless you're doing them in bulk, and you're not going to find them because they didn't make them in bulk. But if you were to buy one of these sleeper guitars, well, some of them they do, but you won't lose your money on them either. They tend to hold their value. They tend to hold their value. And these are better deals now because, okay, I'm going to plead to the Chibson crowd one more time. With Chibsons being taxed out of reach, why don't you look for real value instead and start looking at some of these models that I was talking about tonight. These guitars were built to last, and they can hold their own against Fender or their Gibson counterparts. This one that I just bought, for example, is from 1996, and it doesn't look it looks great. It's one owner, but it looks great, and they have character, they have history, and they have a tone that a Chibson is not going to give you. I'm sorry. I don't care what kind of pickups they put in Chibsons, which is a joke in itself. But they're not gonna match the Japanese pickups from the 70s and 80s and 90s, mid 90s. And you can buy current pickups, and even current pickups aren't going to sell in regard to some of those. So there's that to think up as well. They have character, they got history, and they got great tone to them. And I think that it's really something that you should consider. I look at, this market, the world, and the way things are right now. And I think that it's a changing landscape out there, and I think that you're going to have to start to seriously look at where you make your purchases at. You're going to have to also look at quality, and value equation that I always use. Use it myself. And if you're patient, you guys think I'm exaggerating. These don't come up. They don't come up. And that guy was trying to explain it to me all those years ago, but it was going through this year and going out the other because I was thinking, okay, I got to get the band. Where am I going to, is the drummer going to show up on time? I got to get this guitar. I got to get to rehearsal. I got to do it. I wasn't really listening. And after I played it, I was like, man, this is an awesome guitar. Can I buy it? And he was like, no. And I've been looking for one seriously. Not a decade because I had Monica Butterscotch, but I've been looking one seriously, I'd say for at least 5 years now. It's sensational for me to say I've been looking since the night that I played it, but I was happy with Monica Butterscotch, obviously, my Fender Telecaster. But since I sold that one, I said, well, let me look for that. I couldn't find it until now. So about 5 years it took me to find them. So if you're patient, you can find them. Now, IDing these are a little bit difficult because the Japanese domestic models, their catalog, what they say in their catalog, and what happened on the ground are two completely different things. Like, for example, the ST 6265 that I have coming, they produced those in 82, I'm sorry, in 83 and 84. They stopped producing them in 85. This one has a January 85 stamp on the headstock. It's a genuine 6265. But if you looked in the catalog, they weren't making that year. But again, this was a carryover from the previous year. So it gets a little sloppy. You have to do a little bit of homework and digging. But, you'll get a great education on Japanese guitars, and you'll be able to identify the winners when you see them. And I think that it is a far, far, far better deal for you to be looking in that direction than looking at the Chibsons. Well, it doesn't matter because the day and age of Chibsons is over, as I said. That's a trade that's just, it's not there. And those guys who make those will look again to Europe to shift their production, and I don't see that happening because Europe is not playing ball in that regard. They don't want to have that kind of dumping occurring here either. And the level of entry for small packages in the United States, it used to be $800. Over here in Europe, it's roughly $220. So even at that, if they start selling Chibsons for, and also what they put on the shipping, they can't put $50 because nobody will buy that. So say they put $100, even then with the tariffs, it's just not going to work. Anthony, welcome, sir. Long time no see. How have you been, Anthony? So glad for you to show up. Thank you, man. I'm glad to see you guys. Again, I want to stop here and just take a moment and thank everybody for taking the time to tune into this live stream. Whether you're watching this live or if you're going to watch it in the rerun, I want to let you know that I do appreciate you watching. It's a good thing. Scott is moderating as always tonight. God bless you, Scott. Thank you so much. I always appreciate you being here for me, brother. Really do. And all the rest of you guys. Yeah, so I just think that, I can't wait for it to come in. I can't wait to show it to you. I've got some awesome things coming in. I scaled up. I started buying slightly more expensive stuff. Models like that Fender. Good to see you doing well, Anthony. Like that Fender ST 6265 that's coming in from 84. Those 84, 85. Those things are creeping up there in price. I found a 78 Greco RB700 bass. It is the copy of the Rickenbacker bass that Paul McCartney played in the Get Back sessions. And it's made famous by that. It's extremely, extremely rare item. And I found another, I think I mentioned this in the last live stream, I found another Rickenbacker 350 Jet Glow copy. But this time it is the Tokai version. Again, a much copied, much faked guitar, but I found an original copy. I don't deal in fakes. But a lot of cool stuff out there. Why screw around with buying fakes? These sleeper guitars, and some of the ones that I mentioned tonight, I'll go through it again quickly. The Greco SC500s are a buy. The Tokai Silver Star models from the 80s are a buy. The RL Pro 2 RS series is a buy. The Fujigen made Diamond and Epiphones are a buy. The Buckaroo from RL Pro 2 are a buy. If you can find one, the Japanese-made Aria Legend Telecasters like the one that I got, or the Buckaroo, if you can find it, or a buy. They're hard. Some of them are hard to find. Some of them are out there, but they're all a bargain still. And I tell you what, you're going to be a lot happier with the construction, the materials, the pickups, everything on this than you are even over the currently available Squires. Certainly the custom vibe. Which again, I'm not knocking those. I owned for a while there. I didn't play very much, but I owned there for a long time. Used to sit here right behind me in a bag. Custom vibe Telecaster, butterscotch. I think it was the color on that. Transparent, natural. Anyway, whatever it was, an attempt at butterscotch, blonde. And I'm just so happy, sight unseen, with the one that's coming because the construction of it's better. Not Naito, it's alder. Not laurel, it's rosewood. Things like that. Those things matter. Because the quality there is there. When you hold it in your hand, the difference, you hold those two guitars in your hand, you will know the difference because you'll feel it. Especially handmade guitars like this Legend guitar. That again, it's a handmade Japanese guitar from the 90s, and I bought it for less than $180 shipped, euro shipped. That's a sleeper. And it took me 5 years to find one. But it's there. What are my thoughts on Zemada's guitars? I almost bought one seriously for a client. So I like them. I think that they're cool. I like textures, as you know. I like texture, and they have a lot of interesting textures. They're just the designs, the textures that they use on the guitars. I think that they're awesome. I think they're creeping up in price. I think there's a lot of fakes out there, a lot of fakes of those guitars. So you gotta be super careful. And don't ask me why, but there are. But I like them. I can't say anything bad about them. I think they're cool. Um, I really think, guys and girls, that we should seriously take a look at some of these sleeper guitars that I've talked about tonight. I'm stoked. Yeah, Mike's stoked. I am stoked about the guitar for the first time in a long time. I knocked off a couple of. I wanted, as you guys know, I wanted my own vintage. I'm dealing vintage guitars, but they're, quite frankly, they're too pricey for me to keep. They're good for my customers. They're not for my wallet. Which is interesting, as I always say, the best thing to do is sell expensive things to rich people. But I did want to keep one, even if it was player's grade or something like that for myself, but I ended up finding a winner. 96 isn't vintage, but it is a guitar that I have a history with. I played live a show for 2 nights with a similar guitar, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved that. That was a great guitar. So much I wanted to buy it, but the guy wouldn't sell it to me. And I don't blame him. And I won't be selling this one. But I'm stoked. I have feelings, that cold spark when it comes to guitar that my heart has become, because I buy them, I sell them. And when you're doing that, you're looking at them all the time, you kind of get a little jaded. But for the first time in a long time, I'm stoked. I cannot wait to get it, hold it in my hands, and just check it out, because I found that to be an excellent guitar for playing live. Again, check out that 15-second clip that I put up of me playing same make guitar, and just hear how that sounds. I loved it. It sounded really great. And I didn't think that I could have this feeling. It's like you think you can't fall in love again, yet somehow you do. But I'm really stoked. So I can't wait for this. As you guys can tell, that's quite a few. I'm bringing in quite a bulk of guitars this time as well. So it's going to be a major unboxing. I have no idea how I'm going to get them up those steps up here to the studio to unbox it. But I'll figure it out. But I got a major. And again, by shipping in bulk the way that I do, it saves in the VAT fees and the shipping cost as well. So you spread that out over several guitars, and half a dozen guitars, and it makes sense. So I went on a little bit of a buying spree this month. But one of them is mine, and I got it for a scream for peanuts, and I will put it up against any current made or past made Squire, any made Epiphone, or any of the lower end Japanese made um, Fenders. I put it up against them. It's great that you show them all for us. Yes, Scott. Before I ship them out, if I wish I had time to demo. When I do have time to demo, I wish I had a demo of that last Greco 350. Because now that I've got this Tokai 350, I wish I could had a little bit more comparison video there, but I just didn't have the time because a lot of these things I've got to get when they get in. I got to get to the client so that I can get paid. So sitting around and filming, if there's time to film, I will film them. I will film the unboxing certainly because I have to check them out before I send them out. But that's also to the CYA as far as I'm concerned as well. Because if I open up the box and there's a problem, then that shows that it didn't occur after shipping. So a couple of steps there why I do that, but I do enjoy doing that. So I got a major unboxing coming this month. So that'll be in a couple of weeks here. It should be here. But in the meanwhile, I'm sure that I will come up with something for the regular show. I haven't done any regular content here in a minute, and there was something that I did want to do. Can't think of what it is right now, but I'll remember. So that will be coming up. I like this angle. What do you guys think about this angle? This is my low stand tonight. What do you guys think about this angle as opposed to the other angles that I've been using for the live stream? I kind of like this one. Let me see how this looks. Yeah, I like this one. This seems a little bit more, intimate, I'm a little bit closer in. I like this. I think I might do it like this. What do you guys think? Let's do this. Well, it doesn't matter because, like I said, my overlooking stand that I have to film broke on me. And I can't get from Temu. Oh, that was the other thing too I wanted to mention too is that hey, good evening to you, Dewey. Is that I'm actually, AliExpress and Temu, those things may close up over here in Europe as well, because again, like I said, they don't want that dumping. So if you're over in Europe and you're looking for, again, cheap tools or parts or even stuff like this, where you can get a fully, loaded pick guard, stuff like this that you can get on AliExpress. I was just start getting that now, or even Temu, if you're so inclined. I would suggest buying that stuff now if you're over in Europe because things might shut up just like they are in the States. I bought my last little bit of spare parts so that I needed a box of assorted screws, and that's it for me. If that avenue of cheap purchase shut off for me, I'm good. I got what I need. So just want to point that out as well. You might want to think about, you might want to think about them. It's good, especially you have something in your hand to show us. Yeah, Scott, thank you. You guys might want to think about that if you're in Europe because the European Union, I just saw a report, they know that the pivot from China with this Temu stuff is going to be Europe. And they're like, no, we can't handle it. We don't want it. So it may be status quo at best. At worst, if you're going to buy that stuff from AliExpress and Temu, not Chibsons, but other stuff, tools, parts, whatever, not strings, but, even cheap pedal stuff like that you might want to look at that because you see what's happening over in the States. And if you think that it can't happen here overnight, well, you haven't been paying attention for the last couple of weeks. That's all I can really say to that. So just I'll leave with that tonight. Some for you guys to ponder upon. You might want to make that move if you were thinking about it. You guys take care. Thank you so much for showing up for this live stream tonight. I so enjoyed doing it. If you stick through all the way to the end, God bless you. I do appreciate that very much. I want all you guys to know I do appreciate you being here and watching and listening. Thank you so much. And I will see you again on Wednesday Night Live. I will be here, God willing. And you too as well. I want you all to really have a good start of your week. Take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and just be good. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye bye.